Hello, darling. Well, you are, I can't really say much about you. Everything's been said, but I wanted to go back to your early years. I didn't know much about that. So tell me in a second, but did you always love to do this when you were a little kid? You were a pain in the you know what?
Oh, I've been a pain in you know what ever since. Are you kidding?
I
No,
was
I'll tell you what, Anita, it's
right.
been an amazing journey. The first time I ever got the idea to be in this business, I saw a movie that I know you probably love as well. I saw Singing in the Rain with Gene
Of
Kelly,
course.
right?
Yes.
And all I can remember is I would come out of the movie theater, and lo and behold, that day, I mean, I think I was 9 or 10 years old.
Right.
It was pouring rain. And I remember I was the only guy in my neighborhood with one wet left foot because I would kick the puddles and hit the lamp post and copy Gene singing in the rain.
Right.
Okay, so 9 years old, then 10 years old. So then by the time I reached 16, I meet Carole King and Don Kirshner, and I find myself making a record that went to #1 in New York and top 10 across the country called Halfway to Paradise. Anita, that's 60 years ago.
You must, I can't believe it. Let me just tell everybody, we got started so fast because I'm so enamored with you. Tony Orlando, and Tony, are you here? Are you still in California or here in South Florida?
No, where I am right now, I'm from Branson, Missouri, where I make my home.
I'm
I
sorry.
have a home in Las Vegas.
Okay.
Branson's been my home because in 1993, I opened a theater here along with Andy Williams, Wayne Newton, Kenny Rogers. We all moved here, and many of us still live here. As you can see, so do I.
Well, I've been in Branson. I was there on a press trip, as a matter of fact. So I do understand what you just said. That is fabulous. But let's just get down to business. So if you could do this all over again, what would you change? I mean, you're so famous now. Everyone loves you. You've done movies, you've done radio, you've done theater. You're doing a big thing here in the Broward Performing Arts Center coming up. And just tell me, though, what would you change?
I know this is going to sound ridiculous because there's change in everybody's life, but I wouldn't change a thing. I really wouldn't change anything because look, Anita, I never saw high school. I only went to the 8th grade. I have performed in 31 different countries. My palate has tasted the foods of those countries. I've worked for 9 presidents at the White House. I've been able to tour along with some of the greatest entertainers that I idolized on my television show, for instance. My first guest was Jackie Gleason. I became friends with Jerry Lewis. I hosted the telethon with him out of New York for 33 years. I've had 15 chart records. I've had 5 #1 records. I've had 4 platinum albums. I've had a major television show that was a network. The first show that had a group that was multiracial. Never happened before. Only the second Hispanic to have a major television show other than Desi Arnaz. How could I want to change anything, Anita?
You couldn't, but let me just go back to your family. I mean, Tony Orlando, I mean, he's like a mystique. Is he really real, or is he a robot? We don't know what he is, but let's go back to your family. Tell me about your parents. Tell me about your grandparents, because they had to have a great influence on you.
Absolutely. My grandparents, my mother's mother and father, my father's mother and father, both are from different countries. Okay, so my Greek dad, I'm actually Greek, half Greek.
Huh?
Okay, so my dad's Greek. His family came from Greece, not born in New York. My grandparents on my father's side, my grandparents on my mother's side, born in New York, but both grandparents lived in New York City. Both had their children in New York City. My mom born in New York, my father born in New York. So I'm a combination of those wonderful heritages. I'm a Greek-Arican, if you put them both together, okay? And my grandparents on my mother's side basically raised my mother and I. And my mother was married at a very young age and divorced at a very young age. So we were both raised in my grandmother's, on my mother's side, household. So I spoke Spanish at a very early age.
And
Although my
Greek?
yaya
You
and
also
papu
speak
on my
Greek?
Greek side had a
Yeah,
big hand on me too. So
right.
yes, you're right. My family had much to do. But listen, Anita, this is
Yeah.
the greatest thing.
Yes.
My sister Rhonda had the greatest impact on me.
Huh.
She had an IQ of an 8-month-old baby until she passed at 21 years old.
Oh,
I learned the subtle, most important things in life, such as being able to scratch your own itch,
uh,
being able to understand what it's able to walk or say or clap your hands during a show. My sister could never do that. So really, the greatest impact I had in my life was from this little girl that could not even say mama.
well, that is a beautiful story. And I think every famous person could attribute something to someone special. And you just told us, I don't know if many people know about that. Her name was Rhonda.
Rhonda Marie.
That is lovely. And have you ever written a song about Rhonda Marie?
I have. It was never a hit record, but it's a song that I wrote from my heart. Yes.
Oh, that's lovely. What a great story. Well, tell me.
My whole, Anita,
Yeah.
my whole career has been for my sister Rhonda. She's always been the piston to my, now that transfers over to my beautiful daughter, Jenny, and my son, John. So my career and my life is for my wife, Franny, and my children. That's why I'm out there still working, making them happy. My daughter does all of my social media.
Ah.
And my son has a podcast in Las Vegas. So all is good. And by the way, my brother, who plays keyboards in the band, was raised right there in Fort Lauderdale area.
Really?
And yes, and so my dad lived there. And so I lived a lot of years in that area. And I'm looking forward to Broward. I was just at a concert there to see David Foster, who had me up on stage at his concert to do Yellow Ribbon. So the people of Florida have been very, very kind to me. I've done all the condos through the years as well. So I have a strong relationship with the people of Broward County for sure.
Well, you have a very strong relationship in your body. I want to ask you, what time do you go to bed? When time do you get up?
You're not going to believe this, Anita.
I tell the truth. You probably don't sleep, right?
Okay. I go to bed generally about 3 a.m.
Right. I knew you were going to say that.
And I get up when I get up.
Oh, yeah.
There's no time.
Right.
There's no time. It's like I remember Sinatra telling me that he gets up every afternoon at 4 o'clock. But Dean Martin got up every day at 8 o'clock in the morning because he was a golfer. And so he was the golfer. Frank was the sleeper. I'm on Frank's side of the coin.
Well, you are, Tony Orlando, and it's a great name also. I always think of a lot of people and their names, you can't pronounce them, but Tony Orlando is great. Tell me who you think is someone that was a mentor, one person. And you've named a lot of people, but who would you say was a mentor, whether it's living or deceased now?
I've had a few. One of them was Bobby Darin, for sure.
Really?
He was a very strong mentor for me, along with a man named Don Kirshner. His wife, Sheila Kirshner, still lives there in Florida. But Donnie was a great mentor to me. I've had a few, but I would say Bobby Darin was a main influence in my life as a performer.
And I'm sure people now, if they were asked, they would say Tony Orlando. Who do you think would say that?
Thank you, Anita. Thank you.
So who do you think would say that? Do you know anyone who's hung around you and just idolized you so much?
Not really.
No.
Not really. If I did, it would be hard for me to tell you, because I don't think that would be a humble thing to do. I think that would be a kind of an egotistical thing to say.
No, I know that, but I'm sure there are people who'll be watching and say, oh, yes, I loved him. He's the one. He's the reason I was going to be a CPA and now I'm a singer.
I hope there's a few out there. Well, I'll tell you what, I signed Barry Manilow when I was running the music division for CBS for Clive Davis, who, by the way, is a Floridian now and a great friend of mine. He made him a star. Clive made Barry a star, but I had the good fortune while working for Clive to sign Barry as a writer. So I feel very strongly that maybe an influence of mine had something to do with his career.
Of course it did. You see, and people don't appreciate really what it is when people have gone back to teachers and they say, you were the influence in my life. And here's a teacher, an elder lady, and she said, was I really? Oh, yes, I'm a famous scientist now because of you. And I'm sure there are entertainers now that say, Tony Orlando, my God, he was the guy. I couldn't believe what he did. And I want to go back to something though. Did you know you were talented besides singing and doing what you do? Were you talented enough to do all these other things? Did you learn it, or it was just in your heart to do right things and to produce?
Yeah, I think it was a matter of, like you say, influences. I remember when I signed with Donnie Kirshner, I was 16 years old. I signed with Columbia Records, I was 16 years old. I was working with a young lady who was only 18 years old, and her name was Carol King. Another young man named Barry Mann. And those two were very influential in me learning what a great song was, how to identify a great lyric. I think they were influences in terms of my publishing life. I think in terms of my performing life, it was many different performances, but one I've just mentioned was Bobby Darin. And then on the end of Behind the Desk, I think Donnie Kirshner was the influence on how to work behind a desk for 4 years and work my way up to being a vice president of CBS at only 23 years old, by the way.
I know,
So
I saw this. I don't know. So you were really discovered. Who would you say discovered you the best? You told me at the very beginning, but who actually saw you and said, he is really something. We've got to get a hold of him.
it had to be Donnie Kirshner. It really
Okay.
had to be Donnie, yeah. But I want to share something with you about Fort Lauderdale.
Okay.
My father remarried a beautiful, beautiful Jewish girl from Brooklyn and was married to her for 42 years. And Abby still lives in Florida. But when my dad passed away, he was so loved by the rabbis that he's the only non-Jew buried in the Star of David cemetery. And on his headstone, the rabbis loved my father so much. And by the way, my dad spoke perfect Yiddish. And one end of his stone in his graveyard is the Star of David, and the other side is the cross, because he always wore both around his neck. He had a Yiddish kepi and a Yiddish heart, my Greek dad.
Fantastic stories. You know, that nobody knows these things, but we do now. That's lovely.
You know, when my brother was bar mitzvah, my father had an aliyah. You would have thought he received the Academy Award.
Oh my goodness, Tony. No wonder you have such a positive nature. You're so exciting. And have you ever lost your voice? I don't mean lost it, but have you ever had when you're hoarse and you have to go on stage? What do you do?
You know, I've had that experience just recently. And you just do the best you can. And people are very forgiving. Although it doesn't happen to me all the time, it did happen to me recently, and it was frightening, actually. And but I went to an ENT doctor, and he said, "You're fine, Tony, everything's good." So I just finished a concert with David Foster in Phoenix. And on that show was some great artists, his wife, Kathy McPhee, Michael Bolton, myself. It was just extraordinary to be on that show, you know, with these great artists. So everything is good. I do about 150 dates a year when the pandemic wasn't here. And now we're starting to get it back again. I'm so happy to see that happen.
Yeah, and you're so good. And it's very good for people. So have you ever given away, when you're singing the Yellow Ribbon song, you ever give away yellow ribbons?
Did I have a what?
The yellow ribbons. You ever given away any yellow ribbons?
Have I been given an array of yellow ribbons?
Yeah, you give them away to the audience?
I have. I haven't done that many years, but I have.
I'll tell you
the
what.
song has amazing meaning.
Right.
And it has welcomed home our veterans.
Oh, yes.
But yes, since 1973. And listen to this. In 2023, I will be able to host the 50th anniversary of our POWs at the Nixon Library. I have reunion with them ever since 1973.
Tony.
The POWs and myself.
Tony,
This is
it's so
a great thing.
beautiful.
And that song has raised, I'm told, hundreds of millions of dollars on behalf of veterans, needs and causes. So I'm very happy
Listen,
about that.
Tony, I have a magazine called Boomertimes, and if your press people give me a picture of you, I'm working on my April issue. I want to feature you on the cover as one of my images.
Oh my God,
I
thank
really,
you.
well,
My
you've been
daughter Jenny's
featured
sitting
before,
here,
but
she'll get it to you for sure. Anita.
I want to do that because even though my covers are, they don't come to life, they would.
Thank
Somehow
you.
when people see you, they'll hear you singing through your picture. I know.
Thank you so much.
And so tell me about your wife. Every wife has to put up with someone like you. She must be a jewel.
Boy, will my wife love to give you a hug when she sees you, Anita. I think it's the other way around. I think my wife deserves the award for having to put up with me, quite frankly.
Yeah.
I do. She is a gift from God, my wife.
How
We're
long
married
have you been
32
married?
years.
How
And
long
she
have you
is
been
a
married?
gift. She is a gift from God. She is an amazing woman and an amazing friend.
And how long have you been married?
32 years. We're married 32 years.
Great. And
Yeah.
when we think about it, I was just listening to all the people you've been involved with. Wouldn't it be wonderful one time for everyone to be on stage with you together? I mean, you'd have crowds, there'd be no stadium that could house that.
Well, I was thinking the other day, you remember the variety show, the Tony Orlando and Dawn show?
Of course.
Get this. Can you imagine? My very first guest on that show, Anita, was Jackie Gleason.
Oh, really?
It was overwhelming to think that I was going to be on stage with the great one.
Of course.
Was 28 years old, having a national television show that, by the way, we were having 30 million people watch every Wednesday night.
Oh.
Now, today, those are unheard of numbers, right?
Yes.
You don't get that anymore.
No.
30, and the reason for it was there was no cable. There was just 3 networks.
Right.
So we had 30 million people watch every single week. And when I think back that I had a chance to work next to Jackie Gleason,
Right.
Frank Sinatra, Sammy Davis, Jerry Lewis,
Right.
Dean Martin, Lucille Ball, to think that I did a sketch with those people, that I did sketches of comedy with some of the comedy greats of all time, able to stand next to some of the greatest singers of all time on that show. It's overwhelming in my memory. I look back on it and I think, did I do that? Did that really happen to me? Really?
I see there's a jukebox in your office or their home, wherever it is. Is that a real jukebox?
Yeah, actually, it's not even a jukebox. What it is, it's a cabinet that looks like a jukebox.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. I put all of my stuff in there.
Oh, all your stuff. Yeah, it looks like a jukebox. Well, remember, you probably were on jukeboxes many, many years ago when you went into a bar. That's what they had. And there was Tony Orlando.
Yep, no doubt about it. And I remember going to a diner when I was 16 years old. I had Halfway to Paradise, that first hit record.
Right.
And I remember going to a diner, and at the diner, they used to have the little small jukebox right at your table.
Yeah, right at
How
the
many times
tables,
do you
right.
think I played that record, Anita? How many times do you think I played it?
Well, I think, in my opinion, knowing a lot of people like you, what's really kept you this way is you don't have a big ego. You said that when I was asking you, but you know who you are, you explain it, you appreciate it, you're still not believing that all this happened to you, do you?
You're right. I look back on it, and here's my reaction. I thank God for the blessings, quite frankly.
Right. No, it's true. I hear that in your voice, and of course, your wonderful sister. That was really lovely that you talked about her. So, now I know you're going to be performing big time, and people are going to be coming. And what do you want the audience to know? What do you want them to know about you? Just your music, or do you talk about about how you got where you got? What do you do?
Here's what I want them to know.
Okay.
That I truly am grateful for them, that I love them, that without them, my dreams would have not come true.
Right.
And that when I hit that stage, the only way I can pay them back is by giving them 100 plus% of myself
Of course.
and whatever God gave me in terms of talent. And then I'm going to make sure that even the guy who came to the show, who said to his wife, really? You want me to go see Tony Orlando? What, are you kidding? I want him to walk out going, honey, thanks for bringing me.
Right, right. No, that's true. So I didn't see in your bio, did you write a book? Did I miss that?
Yes, I read a book called Halfway to Paradise. I
Oh,
did. It
okay, you
was
did.
released by St. Martin's Press a long time ago, but I'm ready to write a new one.
Oh, you
And
are?
because that chapter is only half of the story,
Of
the
course.
next is the second half.
That's right. We have to get that book because it's going to be very important, and I will review the book when you get it. But I just wanted to, so when you've traveled, and you said you've traveled all over the world, where are the best big places that you've traveled all over the world?
You know, I've never really, to be really honest with you, I've been everywhere. I've been to Taiwan, to Jerusalem, from every European country you can name. People are people, Anita.
Yeah,
Truthfully, when they feel your heart,
yeah,
there's no nationality, there's no country, there's no color, there's just heart. And people respond to heart. And every time I have walked on a stage, I have felt the audience give me their heart. Hopefully, they have felt mine.
yes. I'm sure that's why you're so popular. It's like, you've been around a long time. You said you started pretty much.
61
I was
years.
going to say that. That's a long time. But so I think when people hear your name, they wonder, so what is he doing now? What's different? So what is different? Of course, you're doing your interviews and you're on Zoom.
I'm
And
experiencing a whole new journey right now.
oh, tell me.
I was asked during the pandemic to do a radio show at the iconic WABC in New York.
Ah,
And they asked me to fill 2 hours of time. Well, not only did I enjoy the 2 hours of time, not only did I get some of the greatest artists and people to come on. Adam Sandler was my guest. Lionel Richie was my guest. Garth Brooks has been my guest. Clive Davis has been my guest on the show. And the show now has received, it's number 2 in its time slot in New York City. It's number 7 of all radio stations on all platforms in New York. And it streams worldwide. And it's a gigantic hit to my surprise. So every Saturday night, Eastern time from 10 to midnight, there's the Tony Orlando show, Saturday nights with me, and I have a ball doing it. So anybody wants to go to WABC.com, come in on, and you can hear it anywhere in the country because it streams on WABC.com. So that's a whole new journey. So I've gone from television shows to motion pictures, to Broadway and Barnum, to being behind the desk and finding myself as a vice president of CBS, to now a radio host. It don't get better.
yeah. And that's interesting because a lot of people start out as radio hosts, but you've now been able to come into a new way because you have all these stars who'll do anything you want. And you can bring this to all the people. I love this idea. Now you're on radio. When you're on the radio, are you also Zooming what they're hearing and seeing?
Am I also what?
Doing are you on Zoom while you're
No, it's not a podcast.
I know.
It's a radio.
I understand
But
that.
it's a very good thing you just mentioned, because the next thing we're going to do now at ABC is go to visual podcast.
Right.
Because the world now, believe it or not, radio has made a major comeback because of podcasts. So now radio and podcasts become one. And it's a whole new iconic thing happening to radio.
Yeah, it's true. I want to go back to the veterans. I want to talk about that because with this whole thing with Ukraine and all, I want to just say, who was a veteran in your family or who in your world that makes you feel so strongly about them?
Well, all of my family served in World War II. Every member of my family. And as a matter of fact, Anita, I'll tell you something that happened to me. During the Vietnam War, we still had the draft, as you remember. And I wanted desperately, like the rest of my family, to be drafted. So, when you were drafted, you'd go through different stations medically. They look at your ears, your nose, your eyes, and everywhere else, right? To see if you were fit for combat.
Right.
Well, I had what was called a narrow auditory canal. So this
Oh,
Greek doctor says to me, you can't serve. And I said, what do you mean I can't serve? He says, you won't be able to hear a command. Now, in retrospect, I think this Greek doctor was trying to prevent me from going to war. I really do.
yep.
And I'm pleading with him, please, I'm embarrassed. I don't want to go home. Well, God had another plan for me, Anita.
Yeah.
The plan for me was to carry a rifle called Tie a Yellow Ribbon around the old oak tree. And that song has raised so much money
Yes.
to help
Yeah.
veterans that I feel like God had a purpose for me.
Right.
I was so down that I couldn't be
Oh.
drafted. But we think we know where we're going, but the good Lord has another plan for us.
That's right. That tie a yellow ribbon. We need that now. We need it all the time. And that's why I asked you if you do give out yellow ribbons, just little pieces of yellow ribbons that might, that might be important for people, because
You know,
they
the
all have
first I
symbols.
ever sang Yellow Ribbon, Anita, was with Bob Hope.
Really?
1973, he invited me to the Cotton Bowl to welcome home those POWs from Vietnam,
Oh,
Cambodia, and Laos.
oh,
70,000 Texans were there.
no,
That was the day that I committed my life to veterans' causes and veterans' needs.
that's beautiful, Tony. That's so special, and you're so sincere. That's why you deserve everything that's happened to you. And
Thank you.
yeah, I mean, that's lovely. And our veterans now are so important. And, this whole thing with Ukraine, it makes it just think about it, war, death and all, but they went there, the Vietnam War, and it's interesting that I know some Vietnam War soldiers and sailors and everything, and they were not treated right when they came back. So the fact you're doing what you did or you do now is very important.
Anita, watching the people of Ukraine,
Yeah.
the fight in them for freedom,
Yeah.
should be a reminder that we cannot mess with our own freedom.
That's right.
Look what these people are willing to do to protect their children, their homes, their country, their local pharmacy, their local restaurant, their local park, the school that their children went to. Every single aspect of their life becomes even bigger and larger to fight for.
Right.
Okay, we have to learn again from these people what it is, because I'll tell you, Anita, we're on the edge of something very bad here.
Yeah.
We're looking at this country and the world right now, between China and Russia and all this that's going on.
Yeah.
We need to be very aware of what it is and remember our veterans and remember the Ukrainian people, to have freedom deep in our soul and deep in our heart. And that when we go to a show, go and enjoy it. And we've gone through a pandemic. We're watching these people going through a war. Enjoy life to its fullest.
Yeah, you are so good. You're wherever your parents are, they know that they brought someone into this world that was great. Do you have brothers and sisters?
Thank you, Nita.
Do you have brothers and sisters?
My sister passed away
Yeah.
at 21. I have 3 brothers I had a very, very energetic Greek father. He was married 3 times. Okay, so he had me, and he had my 2 brothers from Avi, who I talked about earlier, right? Then he had a 3rd. So there's 4 brothers all together from 3 different mamas. And the 4 brothers together were closer than ever. I lost 2, both of them to cancer, and I lost, and my only 2 left is my brother David and myself. So I have a brother who is my partner on my radio show.
Good.
And who edits the shows and produces the shows with me.
Great.
And of course, I have my beautiful daughter Jenny and my son John.
Right. That's lovely. So you do have a brother. Well, when I think about this, do you feel you're extraordinary in the entertainment field? I mean, there are a lot of people who've entertained, but you have really done it a long time. 16 now, and you said you're 70. What are you, 70? What?
My age?
Yeah.
I'm going to be 78 come April.
Ha! 78. So 16 to 78. Oh my gosh. You've got to put that other book out soon. You know that.
All my life, I've never known anything more than this. I'll tell you what, Jenny, do me a favor. See that Sammy Davis one over there? The one on the top on the right. I want to read this to Anita from Sammy. I share
Okay.
a story with you about 60 years in show business.
Okay.
So Sammy and Jerry, of course, were very good friends to me. And I remember when Sammy had his 60th year in show business.
Yeah.
And I remember saying to Sammy, 60 years, Sam? You're in show business 60 years? And so I go back to a date here. So this is a little, I don't know if you can see this.
Yeah, I can.
Right?
I can see
So
it.
this is from Sammy
Okay.
to me.
Okay.
So he
So read
writes,
it.
"Dear Tony,
Right.
60 years of show business is a long road to travel.
Huh.
There's been the good times and the not so good times. No one travels any road alone.
Huh.
And I wanted to thank you
Huh.
for sharing part of your life and your journey with me, and especially for your part in making the recent Daily Variety salute to my 60th year in show business one of the great memories and great times I shall ever have in my lifetime. I will treasure your friendship always. Peace and love, Sammy." Now, when
David,
he said that to me, I never thought I'd be seeing 60 years in show business. And I look at this often, and I often talk to it, and I say, Sam, I can't believe it. I made that same mark that you made, 60 years in this wonderful business. Holy mackerel. Isn't that great?
It's fantastic. And
That's a treasure right there.
I know, and you're still on your way. That's the thing. It's not like you're settled down and all. You're just on the way. I want to have a date with you 10 years from now. Will you be 86? And you'll still be inventing new things. You'll probably be going up to the moon. Well, do they have you scheduled for one of those moonshots? We got to have Tony Orlando.
You know what?
I'm
going to tell you something. You want to know something?
Yeah.
This is a reverse compliment. Your name should not be Anita. Your name should be Joy.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Joy. Well, you're so sweet. But
you are full of joy. You really are.
Thank you. But you bring that out. You see, I can't stop smiling because of you.
Thank you.
You look.
And vice versa.
Thank you. And you look so good too for your age. And I attribute that to your wife and your kids. That's the family really does it for someone.
It's everything, Anita. You know, to go back to the Ukrainians.
Yeah.
Look at the families.
Yeah, right.
Look at family becomes even more important when you see that on your TV screen. Yeah. Holy mackerel. Imagine if that was our family.
Oh
my gosh.
Right. Well, I know when you present, you're going to do that wonderful concert down in Fort Lauderdale. And I know you'll say something about that too, but it's been such a privilege to have you on our show, Tony. I cannot tell you, I'm excited. And I wish you all the best. And you'll get your PR people to send me your picture so I can put this on Zoomertimes and do a little article about you, okay?
You know what I want to, okay, you know what I want to do with you? I want to meet you over a cup of coffee and some rugelach. How about that?
You're so funny. You're terrific.
That's my favorite. That's my favorite.
Oh, you're cute and you're great. And you're one of a kind, I must say. I have met other entertainers, but you really do shine because you're so real. You're so real, and you see, it's appreciation. You appreciate every moment. Your ego is just behind us, like, okay, give me one more day, give me one more time. I'm ready.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you know what? I really mean this. Let's meet each other. Okay. This has become a wonderful, this is not an interview. This became a new friendship.
Thank you, honey. You're so sweet. And we'll need to do this because Zoomertimes is going to be the best one in April because of you.
Bless you, darling. Thank you,
honey. Thank you. And
love you, Anita.
Love you too. Keep staying well, okay?
You too, honey.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye, hon.
Bye.